Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And so with that being said, we're going to pick up with Wolverine issue number 82, 83, and 84. Now, technically, this should be our last Wolverine video before we jump into the Phalanx Covenant storyline. But don't worry, right after we do finish that crossover, we should be able to jump back into more Wolverine comics. Now, with that being said, this is the point where you have Wolverine thinking that he is going to die. You see, thanks to fatal attractions for Wolverine, you have Magneto being able to rip off the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine. And so with that happening, Wolverine's healing factor is not working properly at all. And so with that being said, when he goes up against different characters like Lady Deathstrike or Cyber or even like Bloodscreen, he gets new wounds from those battles. But unfortunately, those wounds are not healing up properly like they should with his healing factor. Now, there are a few more things going on with Wolverine, like the whole idea that his body is going through some kind of change, but also the fact that his immune system is not working properly either. There are a few other things going on with his body as well, thanks to his healing factor not working properly. But again, for Wolverine, he thinks he is going to die. And so for Wolverine, it's more of, let me go ahead and handle my last few goodbyes before I do officially die. And so now we are able to get into the opening pages of Wolverine issue number 82. And so with that being said, we do pick up with Wolverine right now at a spot where him and Mariko were supposed to get married at. Now, as you all know, Mariko is or was the first love, the main love of Wolverine in the early days of X-Men comics, to the point where they were supposed to get married. The problem was that she had to fix her father's clan, which was the Yoshida clan. And so she told Wolverine once she was able to handle that business, sooner or later, they should get married. The problem is that she died before that could possibly happen. And so apparently it has now been 1 year since her death. And you have Wolverine just trying to pay his respect towards her, but also he's being confronted by Yukio. Now, Yukio is an old friend of Wolverine. And really, I could sit here and dive into her actual storyline, but for the sake of today's video, we don't really need to. Just know that Yukio is always in Wolverine's corner, but also she was there when Mariko had died a year ago. But it's also Yukio saying, hey, listen, don't go outside, don't go downstairs, because right now the Hand is here. You see, there was a storyline where you had Wolverine being able to, well, go after Masuo, who was one of the leaders of the Hand. And so ever since that moment, you had the Hand say, listen, Wolverine is one of our targets. If he's in Japan, we'll go after him and bring our master his head to pay him respect, but also say, look, master, we took care of one of your enemies. But here's a problem, though. They're looking for a guy named Logan who has adamantium claws. They don't know that he no longer has adamantium claws. And this is really important because you now have Yukio being able to say, hey guys, listen, you came out here to find the man Logan who has adamantium claws. Look at that man right there. That man has bone claws and he is constantly bleeding. He's not really able to heal up. So honestly, you're going after the wrong guy. And so just like that, you have the Hand wondering like, maybe Yukio is right. We'll just go ahead and leave for the moment. Now, in the last few videos, every single time you had somebody come after Wolverine or possibly somebody who knew Wolverine, he would tell them like, hey, listen, I am dying. I lost my adamantium. I'm no longer the man I used to be. But this time for Yukio, she already knows because there was a storyline where her, Storm, and Gambit had teamed up. And so Storm told Yukio what was going on with Wolverine. And so it's just her right now, once again, trying to be in his corner. But it's Wolverine saying that he's just trying to say his goodbyes. But there's also somebody else he has to say goodbye to. Somebody we have not seen in a very, very long time. But now we have to jump over to Bloodscream. Now, when it comes to Bloodscream, he's one of the main villains of Wolverine in the early days of Marvel Comics. And so you have Bloodscream right now trying his best to hunt down Wolverine. Now, he tried in an earlier storyline that we had covered, but you had Wolverine supposedly kill him off, but apparently he is not dead. Now, for Bloodscream, while trying to find Wolverine, he kind of finds these 2 miles, these 2 ancient areas full of magic. And so you have Bloodscream go over to that area and he finds the body of LCD. Now, we have not seen LCD in a very long time. You see, LCD was created by Donald Pierce. Now, Donald Pierce was a cyborg who led a group better known as the Reavers. Now, his main goal was to use LCD and also another android known as Albert, a android version of Wolverine, as a way to kill off Wolverine. The problem was over time you had LCD and also Albert become allies of Wolverine. Now we have not seen these characters in a very long time, and apparently they had gone through some ordeal that was not told to us yet, but will be in a later storyline. But either way, once you have Bloodscreen being able to find LCD but also find Albert, they're kind of like, hey, do you know Wolverine? And for Bloodscreen, he's all like, yeah, I most definitely know who Wolverine is. They have no idea that this guy is actually an enemy of Logan. But now we have to jump over to Excalibur. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, Excalibur was currently staying on Muir Island, the home of Moira McTaggart in her lab. Now, here's the thing. We're also picking up with a character known as Zoe Culloden. Now, Zoe Culloden works for a law firm that handles Wolverine's properties and assets, and they are called Landau, Luckman, and Lake. Now, with that being said, her goal is to go find Wolverine, but she also knows why Wolverine went over to Japan. Now, it was not just a whole idea of him trying to pay respect to Mariko. There's more to it. Apparently, he has to go check in on his foster daughter. You see, back in Uncanny X-Men issue number 181, there was a storyline where you had this dragon appear out of nowhere from Battleworld. Now, technically, you do have Wolverine kind of feeling responsible for the whole idea of the dragon being there because he was on Battleworld in the first Secret War. Now, all that being said, you did have the dragon go on a rampage, and the building did fall on top of a mother. Now, with that building killing off that mother, before she had died, she asked Wolverine to take care of her daughter, and that would be Amiko, Wolverine's foster daughter. Now, here's the thing though. For Wolverine, he was a full-time X-Men, and so he thought it'd be a good idea to leave Amiko with, well, Mariko, his lover. But then she died a year ago, and so unfortunately for Amiko, she had fell into the foster care program. Now, here is the reason why I say unfortunately. And the reason why I say unfortunately, because, okay, for Amiko, she had fell to a family who's just being abusive in different types of ways. But also, when it comes to the money that they get for the foster system, they're not using that money as a way to take care of the child. Instead, they're using the money as a way to get what they want. So, for example, a brand new TV or possibly some new alcohol drinks or cars, whatever. Everything they wanted, they're getting that with the money they're supposed to use to help raise Amiko. And so with that being said, you didn't have Logan appear as somebody who works for the foster system as a way to check in on the child. Now, here's the thing. The child has no idea that Logan is technically her foster father. And the reason why I'm saying that because when she met Logan, he was wearing his Wolverine outfit, not wearing his just regular clothes. So she has no idea what he looks like as Logan. But here's the thing. When he does appear, he realized what's happening to his foster daughter. Now, originally, she was staying with Mariko, so things were okay. But again, Mariko died, and so unfortunately, she got left behind with this family. And so for Logan, it's now time to get her the heck away from this family. And so you have Logan appear in his Wolverine outfit, but kind of wearing a makeshift ninja mask. But either way, once he does appear, it's him trying to show that no matter what, he will always be there for Amiko. But also, it's him scaring the living you know what out of her fake foster parents because they're all like, hey, we're not scared of you. In matter of fact, we know your ninja mask is just some pantyhose, and that's really it. You're not scary at all. And you have Logan just walk through them, breaking all their weapons, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? He's real deal. Go ahead and take her away, which he does. But again, with Wolverine possibly dying, he wants to make sure the child is left behind by somebody who can possibly take care of her. And that is where Yukio step in. You see, for Yukio, it's her right now finding out that Wolverine wants her to take care of Amiko. Now, really for Yukio, she's down with the idea because again, she's being there in Wolverine's corner. She's being there for Logan, somebody she truly does care about. Now, you do have the Silver Samurai appear. Now, for me personally, I thought we're going to have another battle between these two guys once again. But instead, he came here for an actual good reason. You see, for the Silver Samurai, he is the half brother, or was the half brother to Mariko. Now, she was the leader of the Yoshida clan, but with her death, he became the leader of the Yoshida clan. But we do learn here that him and Wolverine have made a deal with one another. You see, with Wolverine returning the honor sword that was given to him by Mariko, is him and Samurai making the deal, saying, you'll give Yukio money as a way to help raise Amiko. And with that being said, I will then give the sword back over to your clan that was given to me by your sister. And so with all that being said, Wolverine was able to find a way to make sure that Amiko will be properly taken care of, even though he's now dying. And so as we dive into Wolverine issue number 83, we do pick up with Wolverine flying over to Canadian North. And the reason why, because he's meeting up with two characters at the moment, and that would be James and Heather Hudson. Now for James, there was a point in time where he was quote unquote dead in Marvel Comics. And so with his death, you had his wife being able to pick up the mantle where he had left off at. And so she was called Vindicator. But then when he came back to life, he had to get a new code name, and that would be Guardian. Now, with all that being said, you have James and Heather in Canadian North, helping out a group of scientists to study the hole in the ozone layer and how that hole in the ozone layer truly affects the area that they are currently in. Now, something else we do have to remember, there was a love triangle between these three characters because when it came to James and Heather, they found Logan and they took Logan in to help him recover. The problem was that over time, Logan and Heather began to kind of fall in love with one another. Now for Logan, he left because he knew what was happening between him and Heather, and he hated the idea of technically being a home wrecker, and so he left. But right now, it's him trying to say goodbyes to everyone he cares for, including Heather and also James. Now, he does not hate James at all, but at the same time, he still has mad feelings for Heather. And so while you have all three characters talking, and when James walks away, he asks Heather, hey, are you happy? Like, I want to know if you are truly happy about the idea of being with James. And for Heather, she knows what Wolverine means by that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, I am happy. Like, you know what? Things have changed and we're trying to get better now. After all of that, you then have Wolverine and also every other character begin to walk into the laboratory. Now, for Wolverine, he kind of realized that there are some crazy marks on the door of the lab. Now, for the scientists, they do inform Wolverine, they do know that the marks came from some kind of creature. Now, they tell Wolverine that that creature was technically frozen in time until the hole in the ozone layer kind of led into the whole idea of the temperature rising in this area, which of course did freeze the creature from its ice block. Now, with that creature being free, the scientists were able to use different cameras to kind of build up an image of what the creature looks like. Now, automatically for Wolverine, he knows what the creature is. It's the hunter in the darkness. Now, we had talked about this character before, actually, in the earlier parts of our coverage over the X-Men, but really more of Wolverine. You see, this creature was really more of a legend to the Blackfoot tribe, but apparently it was a real thing. Now, Wolverine fought one a long time ago, but it seems like the same one could have been back here in Canada right now, or possibly it could be a new one. But after all of that, you then have Wolverine try to have a conversation with James. Now, this conversation for me is honestly a great one. And the reason why, because it really shows that it's Wolverine and James trying their best to move on from their issues. The whole idea that these two characters, even though they call themselves friends, they kind of hated one another because they both were madly in love with Heather. But it's Wolverine saying, like, James, I look at you as a friend. I look at you as a man I have a lot of respect for. And I want to tell you that with me possibly dying, I need a friend to handle all of my affairs. And I feel like you're the best one to do that for me. And it really shows that it's Wolverine just trying to move on and also kind of hoping that James will be a great man for Heather. But now we have to jump back over to Bloodscream, Albert, and LCD. Now, earlier you had Bloodscream being able to find the two androids in some native tribe mounds. And so after being able to activate them, you now have all three characters trying to work together to figure out how to find Wolverine. Now, while they're doing that, you did have our characters be confronted by some pouchers. Now, these pouchers, they're very upset with our characters because they believe that our characters are trying their best to steal from these native mounds. Now, in reality, they are not. But these pouchers, they are trying to. And so they feel like that their chances had just been lost to our characters. And so they tried their best to kill off our characters. Unfortunately, they don't win. You have Bloodscream, Albert, LCD being able to easily take these guys out. And now their goal is to, well, give them over to the police. Now, for Bloodscream, he was able to figure out that Logan is also in Canada. And so with that being said, their main goal is to now find Logan again. But for Bloodscream, who is pretending to, one, be a mutant, but two, also pretending to be a close ally of Wolverine, is really happy because now he might have a chance to, kill off Logan. But now we have to jump back over to Logan, the Hudsons, and also the scientists as well at the lab. Now, one of the scientists, they believe the whole idea of the Hunter in the Darkness is not a real thing at all. And so for her, she's kind of like, listen, it's just some native story and we have so much work to do. I don't have time to sit in here and hopefully wait that you guys are wrong. And so she opens up the door that leads outside. And that is her biggest mistake right there, because as soon as she does open up that door, a Hunter in the Darkness rushes into the lab. It slashes her on the side, so now she's bleeding out, but it does run deeper into the laboratory. And so now for Wolverine, the Hudsons, and some of the other scientists, their main goal is to hopefully find a way to bring down this Hunter in the Darkness. Now, things go south very quickly here. And the reason why I'm saying that, because you have one of the scientists try their best to attack the Hunter in the Darkness with a power suit. Now, that guy dies off very quickly. After being killed off, you then have Wolverine and James being able to hurt the Hunter in the Darkness. Now, after doing that, it ran away into the vents of the laboratory. Now, you do have everybody being able to regroup, except that one guy who got killed off a moment ago. But after being able to regroup, you have Heather say, listen, the first scientist that got attacked, she's going to die if they're not able to get her over to a nearby hospital. But then you have everyone realize that the hunter in the darkness is now calling out to somebody. And you have one of the other people inform Logan, like, yeah, it's calling out for its fellow mates, its fellow brothers. And so now it's Wolverine and the Hudsons gonna have to fight against not just one hunter in the darkness, but now multiple hunters in the darkness. So as we dive into Wolverine issue number 84, it's really more of our heroes trying their best to fight against an army of hunters in the darkness. Now, unfortunately, there's too many of them. As a matter of fact, more and more just keep appearing. Now, for Wolverine in this state where he's no longer as strong and fast or with the healing factor he used to have in the past, he's not really able to go toe to toe with all of these at once. Even with the help of the Guardian there, he still really can't do much. So you have our heroes go ahead and try to retreat. So once you have Wolverine and Guardian go back to the rest of the group, they kind of find out that, well, the one scientist from earlier who had opened up the door that let the first hunter in, well, she died from her wounds. And so now it's up to our heroes to find a way to kind of get help or to possibly find a way to get rid of the hunter in the darkness out there. And so you have Wolverine say, let me go ahead and use the power suit as a way to kind of get rid of them so that we're able to hopefully get help or at least find a way out of here and get somewhere safe. Now you do have our heroes also realize that most likely there was only one hunter in the darkness, but now these others were unfrozen thanks to global warming. But now we have to jump over to LCD, Albert, and also Bloodscreen. Now, this is where the story kind of gets a tad bit wild. And guys, let me explain here. So there was a storyline where you had Wolverine, Mystique, and also Spyro team up together to fight against Mojo. Now, they had to travel across time to be able to defeat Mojo. But Albert and LCD were also involved in that storyline. Now, with that being said, in that same storyline, they had discovered the bones of Wolverine. But the problem was, though, those bones came from the far distant past. And so they had no idea how in the world the bones of Wolverine could be in the past while Wolverine's alive in the present day. And so you had LCD and Albert as Spyro to send them two back in time to figure out what in the world was going on with the old bones of Wolverine. Now, while in the past, they had met a tribe. They had also met, well, a hunter in the darkness as well. Now, with all that being said, while being in the past, they weren't really able to figure out how in the world the bones of Wolverine had ended up in the past. But either way, you didn't have the two androids just shut down. Their main goal was to just reserve battery life until they're able to wake back up in the far future, which they did 300 years later in the present day. So now they're able to be back in the present day alongside with Logan, Bloodscreen, and all the rest of Marvel Comics. Now, while out there, you did have Albert realize that he had picked up a scan of one of the hunter in the darkness, and one of them out there is actually the same one they met in the far distant past. Yeah, it's a crazy wild story. Now, getting back over to Logan, as you have Logan now fighting against all the hunters at once, you didn't have Logan try to use the power suit as a way to fight against all the hunters. Now, the main one, the leader of this group, it recognizes Wolverine. It's the same one we saw all the way back in issue number 45 and 46. It realized it was the man who had saved him from that cage in that storyline. And so you had his hunter just go ahead and retreat, and the others began to follow him as well. And so just like that, the whole entire problem is wrapped up in a nice tight bow. The book really ends on a good note where you have Wolverine going back to the place where him and Silver Fox had lived together. Now remember, she died a while back in our coverage over the X-Men, but it's also Wolverine kind of being finally happy with the idea that she's now gone. He's no longer grieving. He's trying to find the joy in his loss of Silver Fox. And it also kind of seems like it's him getting closer and closer of getting ready to officially die and move on and to possibly be with her. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see you in the next comic book video.